Hi, and thanks for logging on to the Daily DVAR Halacha. And here's a brand new halacha for you, and it's for Monday, the second day of November. Here we go. Sorry, my backdrop's not behind me. It's still NCSY year, but the backdrop is at another event right now. So now you have a white wall behind me. We're going to do some kosher laws for the next few days. Here goes. Let me tell you two factors that I want you to know before we begin, and they are that a knife, whenever it's cutting something, cuts with a force that the rabbis in halacha call duchka de sakina, the press of the knife. And the sharp press of a knife against a food is very important whenever dealing with kosher considerations, like, let's say, the mixture of milk and meat. We'll explain clearly in a moment with an example. But one other thing that I want you to know is that whenever you're dealing with a sharp-tasting food, like an onion or a radish, that also makes the mixing of the foods more potent, because the sharpness of the taste of the onion or radish can actually draw out the flavors that were inside of the knife pressing against them. Let's concretize it with a good example now. Here goes. Let's say you had a radish, a sharp-tasting food, and you cut it with a fleshik knife. Okay, and you want to now know the status of that radish. Is that radish considered fleshik? Because a sharp knife pressed against it, and a radish is a sharp-tasting food which may have drawn out the meat flavors from the knife. So Ashkenaz custom is that we now consider that radish kind of fleshik, and you cannot eat that radish together with milk. Sfard custom is to just cut away at least about an inch from where the cut was with the knife, and the rest of the radish would be considered okay. And this law would be true regardless of whether the knife was clean or dirty. It would be true regardless of whether the knife had been used within the last 24 hours or not. Either way, Ashkenaz and Sfard would paskin as I just told you. If that radish then mixed in with dairy foods, so that maybe it becomes nullified in the other dairy foods, yes or no, so a Rav should be consulted on that kind of situation. If you had a radish that was cut with a meat knife, and oh boy, what a mess, and it was also cut with a dairy knife, then you better speak to a Rav, because that's going to be a complex situation. The same general rule would apply for a dairy knife that cut a radish. The only difference is that dairy knives, some of your dairy knives you might know, have never really come in contact with hot, because a lot of times our dairy knives are just used for cutting cheese and things like that. So if you know that that knife never came into contact with anything but just cold, then you could just wash the cut surface of that radish, and that would be safe if you know that the knife never touches anything hot. Okay, thanks for logging on, and if this sounded a little complicated, we're in a new topic now, and certainly if you ever need clarification on this matter, you're a little more educated on it now, and now you know some good questions to ask your rabbi if the situation arises. Thanks for logging on. Log on again tomorrow for more. Bye-bye.